Hey, what's up you guys? It's Scott with Everyday Home Repairs, and I want to go through a scenario where maybe you just bought a house and you're trying to get the water on, but you have a very active leak. In this case, I have an active leak at this water meter. So I have a ball valve before the meter and then another valve after the meter. If you do not have that scenario where you can turn off the valve before the meter, before the leak, then your only course of action is either to have a curb key to shut the valve out at the curb. Now I have another video, link right here, that shows you how to do that. Or if you don't have the key, you don't know where the valve's located, or you just don't feel comfortable about that, you need to get on the phone to the water company, tell them it's an emergency, especially if you have an active water leak, and they're going to need to send somebody out to turn that off. Now let me show you exactly what we're facing. We have a very active leak as soon as I turn on this valve. So what happened in my scenario that made this meter fail is this meter is located in a walkout old basement. This home has been unoccupied for a long time and the water's been shut off, but there's water sitting in this meter through the last winter cycle. So with a walkout basement, the garage doors all beat up and open to the air, this basically was the same temperature as outside. So every time it got below freezing, this area went below freezing, and eventually that water turned to solid ice, expanded, and then blew out the back of that meter, and thus we have a massive water leak. So how do you fix it? The meter is not the property of the homeowner. This is actually the property of the water company. And there's a small sensor here that picks up the actual meter reading of how much water you've used. And then you usually see a wire like this gray one here that goes to the outside, and that has the small transmitter that they can read out externally to your home so they don't have to come in. Now every home's a little different. Sometimes your meter is actually located out at the curb with your on-off valve, but in this case, out at the curb there's a small cap which is just for the valve. If you see a larger cap, possibly in your yard between your sidewalk and the curb, and you find that, you kind of uncover it, that larger cap most likely has your on-off valve, your curb on-off valve, and also your meter within it. So if you don't see a meter in your house, then that's probably out externally to your home, unlike this scenario. So I have the water company en route. They're going to come out and swap this out. I'll show you it. I'll show you some more details on the actual failure of this meter itself, how it failed if you're curious, and then we should be back up and running. Now if your valves either pre or post are not fully shutting off your water, or they look like they don't have a lot of extra life in them, then this is the perfect time to also replace those when you service this meter. Now, if you don't feel comfortable with that, you do need to schedule a plumber at the same time as the water company, because the plumber will actually address these valves and the water company will address the meter. So there will be a little bit of coordination there that you need to line up with so you can take advantage of turning the water off at the curb and then getting everything taken care of all in one go. All right, so now let's swap this guy out and get a new meter in place and look at that failure a little closer. So the water company just finished up. Honestly, they're only here for about 10 minutes to install this new meter. Now, one thing I don't love is that new transmitter to this meter. They kind of just hung it temporarily on the window. So I didn't catch them in time, but that's something you might want to look out for, because you'd want that external to your home and a little bit more permanent solution so it doesn't have this wire just dangling on your wall. Now the old meter, you can see it actually has a back plate, which I didn't know, that serves as, let's say, the fuse of the system. So the back plate on that meter is such that if there is freezing and something needs to give, instead of your home's plumbing failing, the cap will fail and then that will open up a release path. And that's what happened to this meter. But instead of trying to like rebuild that, replace the cap, they just swapped out the meters in the interest of time and labor. So now I am back up and running. I have a good meter. Now, be careful if this is a home like this one where it's a rehab, someone hasn't lived here for a long time. Check all of your different on-off valves underneath your vanity, underneath your sink. Look at the pipes that are exposed that you can see, and just make sure nothing looks like it's going to be a path of leaks, because once you turn this on, once I turn on this valve, now all of a sudden I have water pressurized to the system and I'm going to have an active leak. Let's just say I might have personal experience with this. So be careful. That can be a problem, and especially if you're by yourself. It's always nice to have one or two other people if you're in a multi-level home, so they can be in the bathrooms and the kitchen while you turn it on and yell at you quickly if you have a leak. So let me know if you guys have any questions. If you're doing a similar project, maybe you're doing a rehab or you just bought a fixer-upper and you're facing something similar, jump down in the comments, and I'm always happy to answer any questions I can. And before taking off, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, as we have multiple videos coming out per week to help you with repairs and improvements around the house, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.